Hello there. Today I wanted to make a review of one book I have recently bought and read, and I think this is a very interesting book and unique book in the market. And let me just show you what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this book. It's called Lasker Method. It's let me just align this so you can see the cover. The cover is very cool, very unusual as you can see, and the authors are, I don't know how to spell it, Gerard Welling and Steve Giddins. So two authors which are renowned chess authors. They written several other books as well. So this book is The Lasker Method to Improve in Chess, a manual for modern day club players. So what is it about, just as a short introduction? So as you might have known, Emanuel Lasker was a great chess player. He was a world champion for 27 years. This is the longest period anyone has been holding the title of world champion. And he was also a very deep thinker. He was a philosopher. He was a mathematician. He has PhD in mathematics. He showed great interest in philosophy in all areas of science. He's known to be friends with Albert Einstein, for example. They used to take these long walks discussing, I don't know, physics and stuff, I guess. And he was also a great bridge player. I think he was even in the Germany national team for bridge. He was also a very good Go player, probably one of the best in the Europe, so the board game Go. He had a brother who was also a good chess player, a Go player, bridge player, and so on. So Emanuel Lasker is one person who is very well. You can imagine what kind of person he is. Um, Very deep thinker, anyway. And his ambition was, when he was playing chess, he wanted to write a manual which will be universal and which will stand the test of time. And he wrote this his famous Lasker Manual of Chess. This is 21st century edition. That means that it's algebraic notation, which I have bought. So in the introduction, Lasker says that this book is for the reader in the future. So he really wants to write a timeless piece which will withstand the test of time, and he manages to do this. So this manual of chess is a great book, and it has everything. Everything in this book is correct, and this book contains enough knowledge for I think even grandmaster level. So of course, knowledge is not the same as the skill. So I'm not saying that if you read the Lasker's manual that you will become grandmaster. I'm just saying it contains enough knowledge even for a modern grandmaster. And he wrote this book. He put several parts. So I'll just tell you how did he write the book. So the first book is the elements of chess. So rules of chess, basically. Second book is the theory of openings, and he gives overview of all known openings. He doesn't go into a very in the depth, but he gives a main line of almost all known openings, so a big chapter. The third book is combination. So the combination, he's talking about tactics, tactical motifs. He brings out basic mating motifs, teaches you how to calculate and so on. And then it comes fourth book. Fourth book is positional play. So he's talking about mostly theory of Steinitz. He's talking about principle of attack, principle of defense, and so on. And he discusses all the positional aspects of chess. So what is planned, what is how to form ideas, how to treat bishops versus knight, and so on. And in the sixth book, he gives examples and models. So he gives many annotated games. Sorry, I skipped fifth. Okay, fifth book is the aesthetic aspect of chess. So this is one more philosophical chapter. So he's talking about chess not just being a science, but also being an art. So that there is this aesthetic aspect and artistic aspect to chess. And he's basically given you several games to demonstrate this aesthetic aspect of chess. So this is Andersen, Morphy, and these kind of Pillsbury, Reti, Bogolyubov, Rubinstein, and so on. Okay, the book is written 100 years ago, so these were the masters of the time. And then it comes to sixth book, and sixth book is the finally the game, so the collection of annotated games. And this is how Emanuel Lasker, so I'm still on this manual book. This is how Emanuel Lasker made a systematic presentation of the game of chess, and it's really a remarkable piece. And I recommend this book, but this video is not about this book. The problem with Lasker's manual is that the style is a little bit outdated. So it doesn't contain anything wrong. Everything written in the Lasker's manual is good. It's good advice, a good presentation of chess. But the problem is that well, for a modern reader, maybe this style, which is 100 years ago, style of writing books, is maybe not as appealing as it was then. For example, it's the same if you want to learn, I don't know, classical mechanics in physics. So you want to learn classical Newtonian mechanics, classical Newtonian physics. You could take a book which is 100 years old, because in the last 100 years nothing new is happened in the area of Newtonian physics. At least not on the university level. So you could take a book which is 100 years old and learn classical mechanics from this book. But the notation, the language, the style, and everything will be outdated, and it will be much easier for you to order just some new book from, I don't know, 2010 year, new book which is written on the topic of classical mechanics, and learn from the new book. So this is just a matter of style, of notation, of language, and so on. In that sense, this Lasker's manual may not be as appealing to modern readers as it maybe it deserves to be. So the authors, this was the idea behind this book. So the authors wanted to present the Lasker's method, Lasker's philosophy of chess, Lasker's approach to chess, and his method in improving in chess, but in a modern and let's say more compact way. So, and I think they did very good job. And by the way, Lasker in his manual, he also gives you time in percentage, how much time do you need to spend on openings, how much time on endgames, how much time on analyzing games, and so on. So they try to extract all the essence of the Lasker's philosophy and put it in this book. Also, Lasker has written another book. It's called another chess book. It's called Common Sense, I think, or something like Common Sense in Chess, or something like this. And this is basically the compilation of his lectures of chess. Okay, I know, a big introduction, but I need to give you context about this book. So this book per se, here it is again, very cool cover, is let's go through it. So it has 11 chapters. So first chapter is general chess philosophy and common sense. So the authors discuss this specific approach to chess by Lasker. And what is this approach? Well, first of all, Lasker is known to introduce psychology into chess. So he didn't always necessarily play the objectively best move, but he played the move which will, how should I say it, which makes his position most comfortable for him and most discomfortable for his opponent. So it's not like when he was alive, some newspapers said that he was deliberately making bad moves in order to confuse the opponent. But this is not true. This is too shallow. So he didn't make bad moves deliberately. The moves he made were good moves. But when he had to choose between a great move, which is maybe objectively the best move, and a little bit less good move, let's say like this, but which will result in the position in which he knows he will be comfortable and his opponent will be uncomfortable with, then he chose the latter move. So this was his philosophy and the idea of Lasker not always making the objectively best move in the position. And also another example how he used this psychological advantage, let's say like this. So for example, his frequent opponent was Polish grandmaster Janowski, and Janowski was known to love bishop pairs, and when Janowski was in the position that he has a bishop pair and his opponent doesn't, he would get overconfident. So what Lasker did in their games, he would deliberately give him the bishop pair. So he will give up one of his bishops for his knight, and then Janowski would have a bishop pair. And Janowski would feel overconfident having the bishop pair, and he would just go to attack, and he would think that, okay, now I have a bishop pair, I'm crushing him. And Lasker would exploit this overconfidence of Janowski, and he won many games like this. So Lasker would just very carefully defend, and Janowski, being overconfident, would make a mistake or take the attack which is not objectively justified, and so on. So these are the kind of things Lasker did. But okay, for amateur, for club player, you don't have to do this kind of position of psychological tricks, but you can learn from him to play good solid moves, and to choose the move which will give you the easiest play, not necessarily the best engine move, let's say like this. So this is general just philosophy and common sense, chapter 1. Chapter 2, chess strategy and the principle of positional play. So this is in fact a very short chapter. It doesn't go in the depths of all strategical aspects. So this book is to teach you the approach, not to teach you chess necessary. So if you want to know more about positional chess, you should learn books like Simple Chess. But he says here what is strategy, what is planning, what are lasting advantages, and what are the principles of positional play. So the main Steinitz principles. So principle of attack, principle of defense, principle of proportion, and so on. The chapter 3 is endgame play. So he's talking about endgame, but again, not in a technical sense. So he doesn't teach you. In fact, he does teach you Lucena, I think, and Philidor or something, but it's not an endgame manual. So endgame play is just to see the mentality and the approach to endgame. And he gives some examples of Lasker's game. It's interesting that Lasker in his manual didn't include endgames. So Lasker didn't consider endgames to be important independent part of chess. So he looked at endgames as just endgame position is just another chess position in which you still have to apply all the principles. So positional principles, principles of attack, principles of defense, and so on, activity of pieces, and other strategical principles, and as well as combinations. So in tactics, in endgames, the tactics usually play a very important role. So he looked at endgame as combination of tactical position and positional strategical position. So he didn't give some special attention to the endgames. So okay, the book goes through the endgame play, and basically the book tries to apply Lasker's philosophy and approach to endgames, and it gives some games, some position. It's a nice thing to go through. And well, it will not teach you to play technical endgames, but it will be useful to go through this, definitely. Okay, now chapter 4 is attack. So he's talking about, like Lasker says, there is principle of attack, principle of defense, and amorphous positions, which we'll talk later. So the principle of attack says that if you have the majority of forces on one side of the board, you should attack on this side on the board. And once you see that you have the majority of forces and that your opponent cannot bring the defense quickly from the one side of the board to the next, you should think about attack and even sacrificing pieces and so on. So the book just gives you describes this principle, and then gives you several games, quite a few games actually. So annotated games. So the book is basically mostly about annotated games, and I like this a lot, this approach. So you have annotated games, you can take your board and you can play the games and see what he's talking about. So small introduction, and then defense. So and then games. So for example, chapter 5 is defense. So let me show you. So this is the introduction, 2-page introduction about principle of defense, and then many annotated games. In the attack, it's even less. Let me show you. So the attack, the principle of attack is just this small paragraph, and then there come games. And you can also see regarding the book that there are many. Let me put it. That there are many diagrams, and the annotations are very good. So good annotations with plenty of diagrams. So the book is very easily read. The printing quality is very high, and if you are reading this with a board, you can put the book. It stands open. So for us who likes books and boards, this is very important feature of the book, that it stays open. Once you open it and put it on your desk, it stays open. So this is very important thing. Okay, so the next chapter is defense. So he's talking about more of this mentality. So Lasker was famous that he understood the position in which he had to defense, and this is something. This is again a psychological moment, because many players, especially if they have a better position and they are winning or they are dominating or they have the initiative, and then something happens and their position worse, they made a mistake, and then their opponent has the initiative and they have to defend. It's psychologically very difficult to adjust to this new situation, because you are having initiative, you are winning, you are in the winning mentality, and now suddenly you have to be in the defensive mentality, and this is difficult. And Lasker was very good to overcome this psychological barrier, and he was very objective when assessing his positions. So he would, if his position required defense, he said, okay, I now have to defense, and then he would very careful defense. So he would try not to have any weak points, to have the all his points covered evenly, and so on. So he was very good defender. And the book also says about the fine art of doing nothing. So he was able to defend and to do nothing, and to make to wait for the attacker to make a mistake, and then when the attacker would make a mistake, then he would seize the initiative and counter strike. So this chapter is about this, and this chapter gives many games, like every chapter. So mostly Lasker games. So Lasker versus Nimcovic, Lasker versus Janowski, Steinitz game, and so on, and even some modern day games. So they don't give just the games for the old masters. They usually start with old masters, then they go with some more contemporary masters. So this was game from 1998 and so on. Chapter 6 is knights versus bishops. So Lasker was he loved bishops, but he thought that bishops were overestimated, and that players with the bishop's pair get to be overconfident, and he thought that knights are underrated, and he really understood how to exploit the knight, the strength of the knight. So it's not like that he liked knights over bishops. I don't think this is true, but I think he knew how to extract the maximum from the knight, and he wasn't afraid to be with the knight against the bishop. So he has this principle. So they give you 1 or 2 games, the knight versus bishop. Then chapter 7 is amorphous positions. So amorphous positions are this kind of positions which seemed quiet, aimless, nothing really happens. You are maybe a little bit passive, and then at one point you exploit the weakness, and then you strike the counter attack. So these are kind of unorthodox position in which you are a little bit passive, and then you strike back. So Lasker often played this kind of position, especially if he felt that he doesn't have initiative. Then he will go to the amorphous position, which is similar like principle of defense, but well, like the word says, it's amorphous, so it's hard to define. So lots of games about these amorphous positions. And now there it comes, the approach of the openings. Okay, this is a great chapter. So approach of the openings. And here the authors give you full repertoire for white and black. So if you want to buy this book and read this book, and if you don't have the opening repertoire and you are looking for opening repertoire, I think this is a great repertoire to have. So basically the authors cover everything. They cover defending against e4, defending against d5, and then how to play as white. So it's a long chapter. So they give you many variations and main lines, and they don't go into details. So their the opening approach Lasker's opening approach was not to learn 15 moves of theory of every possible variation, but his goal of the opening, it was he wanted to solve opening problems. So your opening problems is to develop pieces, to put your king to safety, to control the center. And once he achieved this, he was satisfied, and then he went into middle game. So he wasn't kind of player who is looking necessary to have advantage out of the opening, but he wanted to have a decent position in which he knows he's comfortable with, he knows plans, and so on. So these repertoires are not 15 moves deep. So for example, he starts with Rui Lopez, Steinitz defense for black. He gives many. The authors give main lines and also some sub variations. So if you want to learn this repertoire, it will take you some time, but not very much. This is not a typical opening approach. So for example, this Steinitz defense goes 8 moves deep. So after 8 moves, you solve your developing problems, and the opening is over. You can play chess. Then the Scotch openings, it goes, I don't know, some 8 moves deep. Italian game, okay, he gives the example, so it goes a little bit more deep. He gives example of the game, which is 20 moves game, and he lists side variations. Gioco pianissimo, again, Ponciani opening, the 4 knights opening, bishops opening. Then the King's Gambit, how to play against King's Gambit as black, and this is one of the best recipes, systems, whatever you want to call it, how to respond to King's Gambit. So you have this. Then center game, Danish Gambit, how to respond to Danish Gambit. Then how to defend against d4. Some different system based on Queen's Gambit declined, the exchange variation, the first, the main line, the orthodox defense, and so on. So this is Queen's Gambit declined, basically. The Catalan opening, and so on. And then he comes to the white openings for white. So he recommends Rui Lopez. So everything is based on Spanish game. Then what to do against the Sicilian defense, what to do against French defense. Here, for example, he advises to go to the exchange. So just to have a playable position as soon as possible without much complication. Caro-Kann, how to play against Caro-Kann, and this is it. So I think this opening repertoire is very, very good. So it's classical openings. It's based on for black e5 and d5, for white on 1 e4. It's based on Spanish defense, Spanish game, Rui Lopez game, and I think this is a very, very good repertoire. If you are looking for a repertoire, I think this is it. This is great stuff. Okay, chapter 9 is games for study and analysis. So like Lasker says, that once you learn the principles, once you understand the combinations, you understand the openings, you understand the middle games, then what is left is to study master games. So you have to study master games and to learn, to see how the masters applied these principles in their games. So this is the book follows this idea, and the book gives you games for study and analysis. So many games, very good annotated games. And all these games are played in the openings which are discussed in the chapter before. So this is very good point. So he discusses the openings, and then he gives you many games in these openings. So you can see how. So I would say that if you are using this book to make your opening repertoire, you should first, of course, read the opening chapter, and then go through these games, and you will see how these openings lead to middle games, and what are typical middle game plans. So games for study and analysis, many games. This is the biggest chapter, and this should be the biggest chapter, and it's remarkable. I mean, these games are really very there are very good annotations of these games. And then chapter 10 is combinations and tactics. So finally, they give you some puzzles to solve. Okay, so this is how it looks like. So they have easy puzzles, intermediate puzzles, hard puzzles. So just tactical exercises. So you have even this. You can practice tactics in the end. Okay, so difficult puzzles, and chapter 11 are solutions to the puzzles. So this is what this book is all about. I think this book is very unique. I think this book is very fun to read. I think it's very useful. It contains the whole opening repertoire, which is classical opening repertoire. I think this is very good, and it contains many annotated games. So even if you don't care about this Laskerian approach, his psychology, his chess philosophy, you can just look at this book as a good collection of master games and good opening repertoire and good set of annotating games in the opening repertoire, which the book discusses, and also some tactical exercises suggest for you not to fall asleep and not to think that chess is all about thinking on a high level and deep thinking strategical ideas. Well, there is this chapter with combinations and tactics just to to keep you on the ground and to remind you that you should do tactics always. And if you don't do tactics, you will not improve. Okay, this is it for today. I highly recommend, obviously, this book. I think you will. I think you should, if you're an adult improver, you should have this book in your chess library, and you should read this book, even if you don't care for this opening repertoire. I mean, just going through this all these annotated games, which emphasize the Laskerian way of thinking, is I think worth it. For me personally, I did read this opening chapter, but okay, I already have my own preferences regarding openings. I have my repertoires, so I didn't adopt this opening repertoire because I have one already, and I'm not looking for another one at the moment. But I did learn a lot about from reading this this opening chapter as well. So, like I said, for me personally, I don't. I didn't take this opening repertoire for myself, except for King's Gambit repertoire. I like this very much as black, so I will definitely give it a try. Also, some lines in Queen's Gambit Decline look very attractive, so I will maybe I will even give it a try for some variations, some ideas from this opening repertoire. But like I said, even if you don't adopt this repertoire, just going through these annotating games is very useful thing to do for your chess improvement. Okay, so this is it for today. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please click the like button, subscribe to my channel. If you didn't, leave the comment below, tell me what you think about this or anything else regarding chess, and see you very soon. Cheers.